that over.
The thing that looked through.
My assumption is that not give them the line, it's all the internet.
Backyard, we're gonna.
I think my challenge was I couldn't, I was needing to pay attention to meetings and I couldn't work on getting myself back on the next, so at least then. You know, here's our window.
You know, just lucky.
There's your own. Yeah, because you steal mine in the middle of notes and it's always when I didn't have one. You put it on my ear and you don't have to worry about it. Well, it's only over, well, they like one, that's what it should be. Whoever gave me this was that you, that was my. The best thing someone did. Gave me postcards. Yeah, this has to be.
Calvin started to say.
Yeah. It's gonna be harder.
Yeah, that'd be for sure. Interesting stuff. That'd be right.
Oh, yeah. It was fun, yeah. I had fun. It was kind of different. What's most embarrassing also is being called a celebrity picture.
Ron. And you right.
Did we get an email that we went? Yeah, I think we're gonna. So many steps like care.
Right.
He'll be able to control. Yeah, which I think is almost here. It's very difficult to be managed in situations.
Oh, yeah.
So I think when he's up there, then he can share screen. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Done, after the meeting. Probably. Just Emily, you wanna just test your sound there?
Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Dean? I was muted, so,
Can you hear me?
yep, we can hear you. Tyler is logged in today as well, so if there's technical issues, we will not lose you, we will just switch you to Tyler's computer. Yeah, plus the internet goes, but. Oh, I didn't know how to play that.
Mr. Davis? Hold it. Yeah. Well, you agree?
I think it's B.
All right, it's 6 p.m. I'm gonna call the Washington Council August 15th to adjourn. Pledge allegiance. One day, all right, I'm not aware of any guest speakers. Okay. The next item on the agenda is number 3, public comments. This is for anything outside of the public hearing on the moratorium for short-term rentals, so. If you have any comments regarding the agenda items, this is the time to speak. Just please state your name and your address and keep your comments to 2 minutes, please.
It's an agenda item, the golf course. The
Yep.
assessment-
This is the time to speak, yeah.
Okay. My name is Jim, also known as Arlo Perry. I'm the current president of Coffee Mill Golf Course. Obviously, we're here opposed, concerned about what we've heard is the assessment that we might incur for the overlay on Skyline Drive. I think most of you know, the golf course was saved from being shut down 7 years ago. And to me, it's a perfect case of community coming together to rally support behind what we think of as a huge asset to the city. And we're now up to, I think it's 33 shareholders who bought in, but we have an awful lot of members that support it. Nobody ever expects to get their money back. It's a volunteer run donation scenario, even though it's a private corporation. But the statute, as I see it, Minnesota statute, chapter 429 specifically states the cost of any improvement may be assessed upon the property benefited by the improvement based upon the benefits received, whether or not the property abuts on the improvement. And then it says it cannot exceed the amount by which the property benefits from the improvement. We don't use Skyline Drive. We use the first 100 yards as you turn off Highway 60 for the only purpose to get back to our maintenance shed. But if somebody were to say to me, the initial proposed assessment was something like 38,000. Golf course certainly is not going to increase the value. The average assessment up there with the homeowners appears to be about $1,700. And I think there's plenty of argument to be made. The golf course isn't going to improve in value even that, but the statute also goes on to refer to being fair and equitable as to however you determine. I see somebody or staff recommended a cap at $10,000. Again, I'd say the argument could definitely be made that the value of our course is not going to increase by even 10,000. But to be fair and equitable, seems to me one solution would be if the average assessment for everybody that uses Skyline Drive is $1,762. Fine, we pay that. But again, we don't use Skyline Drive. So I think that's all I want you all to keep in mind. This is what we're doing up there.
All right, thank you. Any other comments, questions about outside the public hearing? Okay,
Play my piece. I have visited the city prior to this, and my concern, I live on Skyline Drive, and I'm feel very fortunate that you guys are going to improve our streets. We're really happy with that. My concern is, I'm not a board member of the club, but I am a member of the club. And that, when you look at there's some apparent inequities there, because you have a lot of people that are using that street that are not gonna be assessed anything. And then you have the club that basically, as just been explained to you, it's not really receiving any benefit in terms of value of property. After my property is gonna go up in value, you know, and I appreciate that, but when I look at the club, you know, that club is a community club. It's not officially a nonprofit, but for all practical purposes, it is a nonprofit because it's just keeping its head above water so that it can provide a service to the community. And the people do it because that's what they want in their community. And it was full acts. There was a benefit tournament for the parent teachers organization. And there's weddings there's all kinds of things that happen. And I don't know the legalities, the presidents have said in terms of your approach to making assessments and what you can do there. But I do think that the council has the latitude to make a consideration and adjustment. And I'd like to make that plea. So thank you.
thanks, Ed. All right, any other comments? All right, not hearing any, I'll just wait for these guys to come in, just, I'll just call one more time, any public comments outside the moratorium? All right, not seeing any, number 4, changes to the agenda, additions.
Did you want to pull it up on the phone? Please.
Okay. Mayor, do you have anything for your presentation?
Just a big thank you to you, Tim, for chairing. It's just not effective for me to do that from online, especially not knowing if I can stay connected. So I appreciate it. One thing that I always want to make clear is that we get a lot of thanks for successful riverboat days. And the city's public works team obviously does a lot to make sure that the city looks beautiful. But I think there's an understanding that somehow the mayor runs the show, and that's not true at all. And I appreciate all the volunteerism. Many of you are on committees. Brian, I'm sure, is engaged. Tyler's on the board. And so just a really successful riverboat days. I was glad to see them kind of preparing for the future change to the Grandpa's Barn parcel. And I thought that it was, the city just looked beautiful. So just want to make sure that I pass on the thanks that I received from so many people. It was great to see a pickleball tournament and lots of new things. So that's all for me.
Perfect, thanks. Committee report, so planning didn't meet, utilities,
Yeah, nothing of note,
okay,
nothing worth mentioning.
John Port,
Yeah, the livability tab for our website, there's a photo contest for that. I think it's closed now. We're gonna watch committee is gonna make recommendation for the pictures that are gonna go on that. Talked a lot about the mitigation plan for the DNR with respect to our barge terminal. Nothing decided at this point on that. And tomorrow is the Minnesota Port Association meeting, which I'll be going to. So that's it.
perfect, Tony, streets, park.
Real quick, we talked about swings, future swings at Ruger Park. Obviously, we know volleyball is gonna move up there, so we got kind of some ideas. We don't know if there's gonna be enough room. We're working on the future, we're looking at our budget, we talked about park fees and campground fees increasing. we're still working on that, we're doing some comparisons with other communities. Dog park discussion, people were starting to leave items down there. So we had to kind of change the rules to keep it clean, keep it picked up. We can't share water bowls, we can't have lights down there, different things like that. Athletic field additions, we did receive some grant funding from WNB Bank and another associate. And then that's gonna help us install the Bravo swing and a swing set out at the new athletic field.
And pickleball lighting.
And the pickleball lighting up. Skateboard park is just about done, we're waiting for the new equipment to come, that was all paid through FEMA. And my streets that we did the micro slurry project on the west side, things turned out good, we like it so far. They all holds up, so I got.
Perfect.
Be very durable. I'm also, yeah.
Thanks, Tony. Ministers report.
Yep, it's National Night Out tonight, so I know a lot of us were over there, and just again, congratulations to the police department and the sheriff department for a great event. The Highway 60 realignment, we did a kickoff meeting with MnDOT, there's probably 60-20 people there, and so work is underway to plan for the design of the highway, and I'm getting some help to work through some easements on the old athletic field, and we're hoping to have a community participation in October to look at preliminary designs for the new roadway through the old athletic field. So that's happening. We did get preliminary approval of our environmental assessment at the federal level for the barge terminal. For the apartments, we're still going through some back and forth on the civil engineering designs for the alley and stormwater system. Brian is reviewing those plans right now, and there may be some back and forth. And once that's complete, the developers plan to bid out the project. And after they bid out the project, we will close on the financing and the land right away. So still expecting that to occur sometime in the coming months. And we also received a grant to cover the cost of a new mitigation system. And then at the county fair, Officer Jacobs and I participated in the celebrity swine showmanship contest and had a lot of fun doing that. And I won, so that was exciting. I have another career, I guess. And then our ambulance and fire provided a lot of support for those events. And we're serving the community on the new building plans and what should be done there. It's on the back of everybody's water bills, and we've received a total of 120 responses. So we're getting a pretty good response now that we've gotten that out to people, and we'll accept those, and then we're gonna set a date to discuss that at workshop.
Great, thank you. Next on the agenda is consent. So first item is resolution 37/2025 PZD grant, City of Wabasha and Minnesota Department of Public Safety, August warrants. Resolution 38/2025 joint powers between Wabasha PD and BCA, 7-1 regular council minutes, gambling application. Approved new ordinance junkyard and outdoor storage, which is our second read, and athletic improvements with WNB Financial. I would entertain a motion. I'll make the motion. Second. First from Scott, or first from John, second from John. That was a really funny one. All those in favor say aye.
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 Perfect.
I'm an aye too.
Thanks. Next on the agenda will be the public hearing. This is for the moratorium on short-term rentals.
Christy and Mike are both on the line. Christy, do you want to tee this up before the public hearing? I think that's kind of helpful for people.
Yep.
So what? Caroline,
Sure, you bet. Can you guys see me?
Yep.
And you can hear me? Okay. Yeah, we a number of folks from Skyline Drive showed up, let's see, not last month, but the month before, to talk about the excessive use of, I'll say short-term rentals or rentals in general along Skyline Drive, which led us to really research where all these uses are. And we have quite a few in that area and have discussed it at length with Mike and determined that the best step to take here is to put a moratorium in place so that we can study it and decide how we want to proceed to potentially limit how many can be in an area based on amount or square footage, or maybe limit how many in general can be done in zones. I've since been doing quite a bit of research trying to look at how other cities have tackled this issue. I think Carol and I have spoken a few times too, and I think one of the best parts about this is that there are a lot of other cities that don't have a whole lot of rental reasons. So that's a gold star for the city of Wabasha, that we have people that actually want to come and tour in the area. So we're happy about that. We just want to find a way that helps us create a more balanced approach on how these units are fit into our community. So with that, we thought that we would set up a moratorium. The moratorium set up to be in place for a year, but certainly we're going to get right on top of this. We'll tackle it at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting in September, right after this moratorium is blessed, and we'll bring it forward to you guys once we have some solid ideas as quickly as possible, and hope that it isn't the entire year, because it's something that helps promote the city, and we don't want to have it shut down that long.
Mike, do you want to add anything?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
This is totally unrelated. I tried to turn my video on when you were taking the vote, but because people are appearing by remotely, you should do a roll call vote. The new statute requires roll call vote in that instance. So I think everybody voted yes on the consent agenda, but just moving forward, do roll call votes. I don't have anything to add. I think all I would say is we've researched this for other cities, and the different choices you can make on a short-term rental ordinance are very broad. You know, it's not one of those where the League of Minnesota Cities has a model ordinance and you just adopt the model. You know, it's kind of really tailored to the specific needs of each particular city, and then each particular zoning district within each particular city. So it's pretty much the poster child for a moratorium. It's something you actually really do need to study to figure it out, I think, and figure out what would work and work for the city. And so that's all I have to say. I mean, it's a fairly straightforward process, so I don't have anything else.
Yeah, I think that council wanted to clarify what would the penalties be if somebody decided to rent during this time, and we looked it up, and it's about $1,000 penalty. Because you have to register with the city of Wabasha, and then you couldn't register, and then if you chose to rent it out, then we could give you a citation for $1,000. I think the other thing that's come up is we do know that people have closings set up for the month of August. So we have been asked as staff, if I've got a closing in 2 weeks and I plan to rent it out, can I register with the city now, knowing my closing is happening later in the month? And we really didn't have a good answer. I think one closing may be this Friday or something, and that person was trying to register early. So I think that's something we would like some feedback from council on as well, is that people have some closing set up for this month, so.
Okay, any other questions before we open the public? All right, I will open the public hearing at 6:17 p.m. And I've just invited anybody up that has comments or questions. State your name and your address, and we'll go from there.
Cameron, I just have one question. What about our comments that were submitted previously?
So, yeah, good question, Michelle. Comments that we've received are in our agenda. Is that the only ones we've gotten?
Correct.
So we have them in our agenda. Okay, so.
Hi, my name is Jack Burns. I live at 340 Skyline Drive. And I appreciate all the research Jeff did, and I did some of my own, and I think it's kind of shared to understand that we don't necessarily think this is a bad thing overall. It really is based on zoning. And so if you have low density residential, which is your R1 zoning, you probably shouldn't be operating hotels in that zoning by the ordinance of that zoning. And that's what's happening in some of the R1 areas. So we're not saying it's a bad thing to have it on Main Street. And so I just want to bring that up as far as when council and staff research this, or maybe it's a moratorium in the R1 and R2 zones, and, you know, downtown where it's commercial in the red and blue zones, that you can adjust for that. Because those areas are fine, those areas have hotels like the Anderson House and, you know, the other places down there, so just wanna make that comment that it isn't necessarily a wholesale thing, so if there's some compromise in that, it's just, you're not meant to operate hotels in single family houses, and that's the issue that we're really trying to face, is taking all those properties and turning them into hotels and creating additional traffic on those roads where it should be, so, thank you.
Thanks, Alan.
And me and my wife just recently moved into town here this last February, and one of the things we really started noticing is there is an alarming amount of these Airbnbs just walking down every other street. It seems like, especially now during peak season here, there's not a house you can walk by that isn't loaded with cars and isn't jammed, isn't creating unnecessary traffic like was previously stated. And I get that these short-term rentals are, you know, in one sense generating a lot of revenue for the city, but this is incredibly short-term, as you know, a lot of people know. Wabasha is part of the Great River Road, so it's part of that tourist season. When it comes to, you know, the early spring months, late fall, winter months, these rentals are basically vacant. They're robbing a lot of seats for the local school districts. They're robbing a lot of homes for people that would be otherwise looking to move to the area. And, you know, there was some discussion about this already on the Wabasha Facebook page, actually. And there were a few people that were already saying, no, it's good for the community, it's good for the businesses. It isn't. It's generating a burst of income and then basically, you know, leaving everyone else bereft of it. Wondering if that have any impact on the research or the.
Thank you.
Robert Waltney. I'm a real estate agent with Remax. And I am one of those people that have a client that did enter into a purchase agreement prior to this hitting Facebook with the intention they bought one of the condos down in Slippery's, closing on August 28th or sooner with the intention of using it as an Airbnb. So they asked me to come to this meeting to see if there's going to be an exception, you know, because it's already been clearly. So that's what I'm here for. As far as robbing the community of homes, I think there are 22 homes currently for sale. So we have more houses available right now than we've had in a while. So I think we're in pretty good shape. And I personally do think it's good for the businesses because I think that the restaurants get a lot of business and the bars and whoever else has businesses. Lively, live downtown. My office is downtown. And I like it when the weekend comes and I see a lot of new faces walking up and down the streets because I know they're probably here staying at Airbnb or Brenda's or Anderson House or wherever, but I welcome them to the city. I think it's great.
Thank you.
I am Bucky Beeman and I went to Airbnbs here in Wabasha. Started in 2021. Decided to make the investment on the cheapest duplex close to Main Street. It required a complete gut. Worked with local contractors, you know, the bidders. If you meet one bidder, I feel like you can get every service. So I got my washer and dryer, I got my insurance, I got my HVAC done. And then I ended up getting an local electrician, had a local contractor, Harry, It went well. Upstairs is where we hang out on the weekends with the dream that someday we can live in Wabasha. It just hasn't worked yet. And we went on to buy others and still working with local contractors. One is right next to the Anderson House. That one we worked with Dave Huth and it was awesome, went really well. And other contractors. And so the lack of investment into the community is certainly not coming from, we have done that through our construction. And the guests, I mean, I have since 2021 books of reviews and, you know, one example is thank you for opening your charming home so we could stay in a home away from home to prep for a wedding. The area was beautiful and we'll be sure to visit again to take in more sites. Thank you so much for a wonderful stay and your perfect recommendations. We love getting to know the little town and our city dog enjoyed having a yard for the weekend. Thanks again. I mean, the list goes on. And they're, in my mind, getting an introduction to what we got introduced to is the community of Wabasha. And if you can continually encourage a lot of these guests, some older, some younger, encourage them to hopefully have the point of view that maybe this is a place we can live someday. They'll call Robin and buy one of those 22 houses. And so that's certainly what I see from my point of view. We've been fortunate to not have any major incidents. The most is you get a dog that sheds too much and you gotta clean that up. I think our neighbors would say, especially one of them, that prior to our investment, the house was run down and it wasn't well taken care of. And it actually had calls from the police and now they really enjoy having it. As a neighbor, we've got to know them. It's also become a place where we invite friends, we invite them to the community and family. So, I mean, as far as the moratorium, that's great for business. I mean, put a block on it for 100 years and I think hopefully mine will stay rented. But I just don't think it's truly good for the community long-term. So really think about what you're doing and consider short-term rentals as a way that families, especially young families, that's where they start their search is on Airbnb. They don't even necessarily look to hotels because it's become so popular. So consider it as a way to introduce people to your community. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Beth Beaver, and we do have a short-term rental here in Wabasha. The comment, and I'm also a realtor, and my main comment is, as a realtor with our listings, we do a lot of open houses, and you wouldn't believe the traffic we get through our open houses where people have visited our community, stayed at an Airbnb, fallen in love with Wabasha, and they want to find a place to live in Wabasha. And an example, this has happened to me the last 3 weekends in a row where potential clients that come through our Airbnbs are making these comments. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Any other public comments? All right,
So many, but how much time do I get?
2 minutes, please.
Okay, I'm gonna go fast then, and they'll be recorded. I don't have a dog in this race, but my sister does. She lives in a log cabin up on Skyline Drive. She's there approximately 2 months a year. The rest of the time it sits empty, so it's not a potential, no one can buy it. She's struggling. She has cancer. She's struggling to pay taxes and insurance on this place, and this is the only way she's going to be able to keep it. So that's a personal story. I have other questions, however. What are these impacts that I'm hearing about that have led to the need to even assess this? It sounds, from what I saw on Facebook, anecdotal at best. Another question is, could you not do this study without a moratorium? Why not do the study first and then say enough? I can't stress enough, as Michelle said online, the benefit of the financial benefit to the community. One question, does this apply to the city proper only or all of Wabasha County? I live in Mazeppa. How do you propose to evaluate this? I mean, a number of, people who have complained. I haven't seen any kind of evaluation document that says how you intend to study this. You mentioned a few times in the ordinance that you need to study the impact on public health, safety, and welfare. Can you give me an example of how short-term rentals impact public health, safety? And then another question I have that needs to be defined, I think, is what does the comprehensive plan that is stated in the ordinance, what does that currently state? And then just to the rights we have as, it sounds so hokey, as Americans, you know, do we not have the right to do with our property what we wish to do? Like I said, she's not there much of the year. She's not going to sell that house. It's not going to be housing for anybody. It just doesn't seem to make sense. I think the argument that there's not enough housing in Wabasha falls flat, given Michelle's comments and the realtor's comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Their name. Can we get your name?
Sure. Jane Rodriguez, Mazeppa, Minnesota. Used to live here.
Hi, Brianna Cohen from Nearstone, Minnesota, and I just have a couple of questions. So I am just wondering, for the study, who will be paying for the study? Is it gonna fall back or just short-term rentals? And then I just have a little data. There's 53 registered short-term rentals, 25 are single family. And then just as addressing the council, I just was hoping to urge you guys to approach it fairly, thoughtfully. Please consider grandfathering in all existing registered short-term rentals. To freeze any new fees or taxes until the study is complete. I am an Airbnb owner as well in town, and I just would appreciate if we would have a heads up if you guys were gonna add any additional fees. The 3% when that was added, it kind of, the lodging tax, that just took us as a surprise because my folks were already booked out, and so I just personally kind of paid those fees because the calendars were already booked at the time we had gotten that. And so if we could just, not freeze on any new taxes just so we know until the study is complete. And then, one more thing I would urge you guys to consider is if you are gonna do the study, if you can include any of the short-term rental owners in the study, just so that we can have input and be available for you guys and help in any way that we can.
Thank you. All right, any other comments? Okay, Michelle?
I know most of you know me, but my name is Michelle Meyer. I live at 712 Circle Drive here in Wabasha. And I know I just submitted my comments that I had made online this afternoon to the official comments, so I'm not sure if everybody received them. So I just would kind of highlight some of those comments that I made, that I don't think that doing a study or doing a review of the Airbnb situation is a bad idea. I think putting a moratorium in place while you do that is the wrong thing to do. You know, people that come to our town to visit, to spend money in our town. When we travel as a family, the first thing we look for when we go to someplace else is an Airbnb or a VRBO. And I think that's true for a lot of people that have young families, because of the convenience, because of what Airbnb and VRBOs offer in convenience. So I think the comment that was made about people not or only coming here in the summer is incorrect. I think people use these services during Garfield Medfest, during Septoberfest. I think they're used all throughout the year. I don't think just during the summer is when our Airbnbs are utilized in Wabasha. So I think the amount of tourism dollars and money that comes into Wabasha is all year long, is a benefit to our community the entire year.
but there was some back and forth on some of my Facebook comments I made about how Airbnbs affects the school and the small school, if, you know, declining enrollment. And as the chair of the school board here in Wabasha, I can tell you that I don't think that's accurate. Declining enrollment is something we faced for a very long time. We're gonna continue to face whether they're Airbnbs or VRBOs in Wabasha. That is a multifactorial issue that is not gonna go away if we limit or get rid of Airbnbs or in place. There are many more factors that go into declining in small schools enrollment. So I just want to, you know, ask that, you know, if you want to take a look at it, I think it's great. I think the tax impact, you know, could be a benefit to Wabasha. But putting a moratorium in place is not the way to go. And I would also just add that, you know, we don't get to decide who our neighbors are gonna be. I don't think, you know, any one person should get that choice. We live in a community and, we should be expected to be respectful of whatever our neighbors do and whoever our neighbors are. And I don't think anybody, gets to decide that for somebody else. So, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Bill McKay, 224 Third Street. I just wanted to say, other than I have an unpopular opinion on the moratorium, because I support it. I support it because it gives us time to stop, breathe, and look at the situation and understand what's going on with the community, rather than let things just happen. We need to ensure that we have things under control and that we don't have an explosion. If we don't have the more, we have a study. We could have people would say, I'm afraid what the moratorium might do, or what the study might do. Therefore, I'm going to rush into an Airbnb with the moratorium. Put things under control and wait until the study determines what's best for the community. Thanks.
Thanks, Bill.
I know already thought, but I got follow-up comments, so. Just so everybody understands, they're proposing 12 months, but if you wanna do something about it and you wanna make it faster, do everything you can to change it, make it faster. So if you want this to last a month, then prove to the city council that it isn't an issue. If you're owners and you think that this is the best thing for the community, prove it with all the information and all the facts you have. But that's up to you, just like it is up to anybody else that proves that it's an issue. So everybody has the ability to research it. It shouldn't just be up to the city council to do this. If you think that you're the best thing in your neighborhood, then prove it. And they're not gonna disagree with you if you've got valid facts to say so. It says right in the ordinance that this can end as soon as city council votes, which would be a month from now. It doesn't have to last 12 months. And so I think it is right to take a pause and slow down and make sure we're doing it right, so it doesn't change our city negatively. But if you really believe that this is a great thing for the city, prove it.
Hi, Amelia Rayburn, I live on Skyline Drive, so I just wanted to kind of give like an overview again of, I think initially why this all came up was the clustering issue. So initially, my comments were that I support short-term rentals, I think that they can be a benefit in town. But regarding the R1 zoning, which is residential with low traffic, typically larger lots, that type of atmosphere is neighborhood atmosphere. So when we purchase a house, of course, we respect what all of our neighbors do, and we get along really well with our neighbors. We love our neighbors, but we just don't see a ton of them when it's short-term rentals. So it is stranger to every weekend, so it's not technically, those are our neighbors, they're strangers every weekend. So again, we do support it. It's the clustering where it's potentially 5 out of 6 houses or 4 out of 6 houses in a row in one area. That to me is the focus. Also, I agree that any current short-term rentals should be grandfathered in. I do not think that anyone should be losing anything. So I also just. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I just want to bring up the point with a neighbor of mine was a rental, it turned into an Airbnb, and then just recently in the last couple of months, I was told that it's going to a single family because of the work that it takes. So just factoring that into your calculation is not everybody keeps it an Airbnb forever. Thank you.
Any other comments? All right.
Hi, I'm Sharon Milligan Avenue, and a moratorium to analyze all this. But I think people that are in the closing process for purchasing homes, I think they should be exempt from moratorium. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. All right, anybody online would like to make a comment? All right, I'll ask one more time. Anybody in the audience like to comment on the moratorium? Okay, I will close the public hearing at 6:40 p.m. All right, did you get that? Okay. I will open it up to council. Any questions, comments, discussion?
We'd like definitely feedback on the closings. But because as far as I can tell, we discussed would be effective as of today. It's approved. So wait,
I think anybody in the contract should be grandfathered in. And to be clear, this moratorium would be on the additional, not the existing ones that are already in place.
Correct, and I'll try to, Christy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'll try to answer some of the questions. So this is just city limits, so one of the comments was to affect the county at all. I think the one goal was to really study the number that we have, the clustering that we'll have, where we have them at, and I think the moratorium allows us, without adding new ones, to the existing ones to help really study that. Now, if it takes us a month, it'll take us a month. I don't plan on taking a year to do this, but I think I was gonna bring that point up about, do we really need a year? But we can go from there. Public safety, you know, there's been complaints, at least from my understanding. I don't know if there's been police official complaints, but anecdotal. And this is why I think a moratorium would be nice to get some of that out in the air. If there's concerns with the existing people that own short-term rentals and so on. So, and I think the city, obviously, it's not gonna be the taxpayers paying for it indirectly. It will be our staff that'll help out. It'll probably go to the planning commission and we'll have, I'm guessing, numerous discussion on this and probably a public hearing before it comes back as well. So I think this is really not meant to restrict any current ones. It's just meant to put a pause. Let's look at where these are. I don't think there's any idea of getting rid of the ones we currently have just because this is the rules we came up with. So I don't think that's the case. It's a matter of, do we have too many in one place? Do we have the right zoning? Do we have the right process to analyze these? And partly it's, the number is conflicting because some say it's 47, some say it's 52, some say it's 53. I still think it's all low because I don't think some people register with Airbnb or VVRO, but that's why I think we need to study. So any other, that's my 2 cents worth as far as that's concerned. Any other questions, comments from anybody?
Thank you, Tim. I would echo what Tim said. I appreciate you being able to say it to people in person. I want it to be super clear. This isn't a study of whether Airbnbs and short-term rentals are good or bad. That's not what we're doing. We're studying the context of those types of properties in our community and then figuring out, as Tim said, whether and how they need additional regulation or not. So it's not a, nobody needs to be too concerned that the council has a unified view that there's a good or bad position here. We want to understand the nature of how they're operating in our community and the impact. So I'm staying in an Airbnb right now. The irony of having to defend, a position is just simply that we need to understand the context in the city of Wabasha, as Mike sort of started the conversation with. So it isn't, you don't need to try to convince your council members that they're good or bad, because we're in a semi, sort of quasi judicial position to figure out what is right for the city, not our personal opinions about how they impact our community. So we're going to take the time we need to do that. It's not a race, but we will be thorough. But it's not to come to the end of the day and have a yes or no to these properties. It's about how do they exist in our community.
Christy, any comments from your standpoint?
Well, yeah, I would just say that based on the comp plan someone raised, well, how is this managed in the comprehensive plan? And I would just say that the impact of these, the densities, the conformities to adjacent properties, setbacks from adjacent properties, certainly parking becomes part of this. Outdoor lighting, outdoor noise. I mean, there's a lot of things to consider whether we can create happy neighbors and happy neighborhoods in these. And the complexity, as Mike started at the beginning of this, is really up there. Lots of cities have very, very specialized ways of dealing with short-term rental. And we need to sort of evaluate what works best for Wabasha, and we can do that as quickly as possible and move forward ideas to city council and get something moving forward. But I mimic the mayor's response, saying that we'll get in, get this reviewed as quickly as we can, doing a very thorough job at it, and get it back to city council.
Yeah, I could go really either way on this with the moratorium, and that's what we're talking about here is the moratorium, not what zones. That's to address later. Cause I feel like, existing contracts can keep going. Our planning department is very efficient. We could probably knock this out in a month or two. So if you figure that everybody existing is gonna be able to continue, I mean, it just doesn't seem to me that so many are gonna pop up in a month or two, so. I mean, if everybody felt strongly about not doing it, I'm okay with that, and I'm also good with putting in the moratorium, because we do have a problem in one area. And when I say problem, I don't mean like you're having problems with the people there, but density is an issue for me. If it gets to the point where there's one single family home with one resident and then 6 Airbnbs, I don't think that's what we want, even though I'm all about people doing what their property, what they want, so. Yeah, I think if we do the moratorium, it gives us a chance to just look at it, and I don't think it'll last that long, so I'm not concerned with holding people up for an extended period of time.
Which planning commission's already met this month.
Well, no,
When's the next
week,
start? Yeah.
it's likely to get canceled, but.
Right. So I mean, it's gonna be a few months for sure before anything gets locked in, but the reality is that we're not affecting anybody that's already doing it. As well as those that are under contract.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of the moratoriums are a year, but I don't have a problem. I personally love having the moratorium. It allows us to study it without being pressured to do whatever we need to do. I don't know if it needs to be 12 months. I mean, I think we can go to 6 months, but that's but at least allows our staff time. Obviously they have other things to do, so at least allows us to talk about it, planning at least 2 or 3 times before we have probably a public hearing there and a break here. So I'm thinking it's at least 6 months, but I think we would want to work on this as quickly as we can. I mean, it's just the reality of it. But so I'm open to that, but I agree with who's ever under contract, or we can even start this September 1st and go through 6 months. I'm fine with that too. So I'm open to really whatever anybody wants.
Yeah, I wouldn't know how to determine who's
That's
in the process and who's not, so I was also thinking of delaying it just to kind of wrap things up, so.
Yeah, that's kind of why I think if we started on September 1st, that should get whatever process done and go from there, so. But any other questions, comments? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion for or against. With amendments, yes.
I'll make a motion to, adopt the moratorium, but I would say effective this evening with the exclusion of those that we've identified that are under contract and run it for 6 months.
All right, we got a first from John.
So to clarify, we started now, but
But everyone that was been identified,
what if someone comes in last minute and says, crap, I didn't know?
That's
We've
gonna
been
happen.
all over, that's gonna
It'll
happen.
happen.
but you know what, that'll happen on September 2nd too, you know.
I know.
That's true.
I'll
So,
second for the purpose of discussion.
um,
All right,
Mayor or Tim, acting mayor, can I speak quickly?
Please,
Yeah.
Mike.
So is there a second meeting in Wabasha in August? Do you have a
No.
second council meeting? Okay. Yeah, I
Well,
think
we
if, what? Say that again?
do have a budget workshop, but we don't usually take action with that.
Okay, yeah, I think if you're gonna do exemptions, you can do an exemption in an ordinance, moratorium ordinance. That's very normal and done. I mean, not every time, but it's done. And so I was just looking at some old examples of exemptions sections, and I honestly think just doing a voice vote saying anybody that's under contract is exempt.
Oh, got it.
I think that's gonna get messy. I think you need to put language in there that in the actual ordinance that specifically states what the exemption is. And I might need to think through it a bit just so I don't screw it up. But if you adopt it that way and you just, the motion is to adopt the moratorium as drafted with the exception of adding a section to exempt landowners that have previously existing purchase agreements signed, I guess that could work. I want to wordsmith it a little bit and add it in there before it gets signed. And then, then you're going to run into the problem of people, I hate to say this, but 2 weeks from now, somebody could figure this out and bring in a purchase agreement and just post date it to prior to this council meeting. And you're not really going to be able to regulate that. And it's that kind of thing. Just so you're aware of that. I mean, do whatever you want. You don't have to do the moratorium at all. Or predate it, not post date it, predate it prior to the meeting today.
What are your thoughts on then the simplicity of effective as of August 31st or something like that? I think all the ones we're aware of were closing on or before August 31st.
Well, okay, so what it actually is a moratorium for is new permits. So it's let me just read that to you here. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong one here. I was looking at the sample that I was looking at. So it says, until the city council has declared, completed a study relating to the aforementioned findings, the city council shall not accept or process applications, issue licenses, for or allow the construction or development of short-term rental housing in the city. So if you just change the date to September 1st, I think that's fine. You could do it that way, but then you're going to have to process those applications. It's not just signing a purchase agreement, then they would actually have to go in and sign and get a permit. I don't remember what your ordinance says.
No big deal.
Does the current owner have to get the permit? They probably do, instead of like the contract purchaser, the buyer. So just keep that in mind. I mean, it's those details that I just haven't thought through those details, so.
The details we thought through is that for us to take a registration, you have to be the owner of the property.
I agree with that, or you'd have to co-sign, the owner and the buyer would have to co-sign it.
Okay.
And I don't know, I mean, a lot of these ordinances, permitting ordinances like that, like your liquor, tobacco, food permit, sales permits, all those permits require the owner almost always and they usually have a provision that does not allow transfer to a third party. So like, for example, if you're a gas station and you have a tobacco sales permit and then you sell to a new owner, that you have to get a new permit. The new owner has to get a new permit. It's not transferable. So it just depends what's in your ordinance and so there's that. Um,
Would it be clear just to pick a date and then after that date?
well, that's fine, but obviously if people have a purchase agreement that they signed a week ago, but they're not closing until September 14th, and you pick a date of September 1st, they're going to get angry probably, right? Because they're going to say, well, wait a minute, what about me? But we won't be able to grant them the permit because they don't yet own the property, and your ordinance probably says that you have to be the owner, I would think. So that's kind of the issue. I mean, that's exactly the issue.
The ones that have approached us since the meeting, the latest date was August 28th.
No, not necessarily, we have another one.
And what was the date?
There is no date.
It's not done yet.
Right, okay.
And then the other issue you'll have, at least what I foresee, is those that may be operating as short-term rentals and are not even registered with the city properly.
There are some that are operating that are not registered.
Yeah.
So they're, and then how do you tell them no?
Well, they get $1,000 fine, and I gotta work with Mike on that, so we gotta start sending out letters if we're aware we're operating without a registration, they're in violation right now, and we get fined, but. Yeah, I guess that's, are we gonna let them quickly register? But we'll figure it out based on, I guess, what you guys decide tonight, so.
I can withdraw my motion and, well, move to adopt the moratorium beginning September 1.
Yeah, if they don't have a license by September 1st, they don't have a license, right? Right.
6 months, is that good?
Yeah. So effective September 1st, 2025 for 6 months or 12 months, 6 months, okay? Mayor, did you hear that?
Second. Yes, I did. I'll second
Alright.
that.
And so the
Okay.
motion would be to adopt the ordinance. It's in the packet with 2 amendments. Section 7, the effective date, instead of it being upon adoption, to be September 1st. And then the second, what was the second change you had there?
Lasting
We're
6
at
months.
5,
Oh, 6 months, right? Okay.
well, 6.
Yeah, okay. And then the duration in section 5, it would just read 6 months instead of 12 months.
Okay, we have a first, we have a second, I will call for a roll.
Stenson.
Yes.
Moyer,
Yes.
Friedmeyer.
Yes.
Solid.
No.
Woodley. Yes. Waller.
Yes.
Duran.
Yes.
All right, thank you, everybody, thanks for the comments, appreciate it. And I'm guessing this will be on our September planning meeting for at least an initial discussion, I'm guessing, so. If, just for the public, if you guys want to attend that meeting, more than welcome to.
Is it fair for me to ask a question before these people leave?
I guess.
Who's gonna conduct the study? Who's gonna be involved in the study?
So
They all would like to know.
I would say the planning, our city plan, for sure, which then with the guidance of the planning commission, will do the study and city staff. And then that'll be brought to planning commission for discussion.
Public input?
Public can attend those meetings just like this meeting, so absolutely, so those will be advertised just like the city council meeting. And we usually meet the second Tuesday of the month.
They're only staff people within the committee itself.
Yeah,
No public.
but if public wants to offer comments, data, opinions, they can either submit it or come to the meetings.
and then our attorney will probably review it to just make sure whatever we come up with is legal.
All right, thanks, everybody, appreciate it. We'll move on to general business 10-1, 2025 street and utility improvement project. I'm assuming Brian does.
Yep, and Brian, were you able to hear the comments that we got in the golf course earlier?
Yes, I was. Yep.
Okay. So Brian, I did ask him to address the golf course issue along with, we're gonna take action on the bids.
Yeah, so there's two items here for your consideration. First, we took bids on the mill and overlay and reclaim portion of the project here last week. We received one bid as expected from Rochester Sand and Gravel. They were bidding in the amount of $710,972.66. That was below the engineer's estimate in the feasibility report, which was $740,802.82. So it was a good bid. We reviewed the unit prices, and Rochester Sand and Gravel is responsible contractor, responsible bidder. Council chooses to proceed, we'd recommend awarding the contract to Rochester Sand and Gravel. And if so, there's a resolution awarding contract available for you to adopt in order to do that, if that's what you choose to do.
Okay, any questions about that first part?
I will just add that we had Mike Bubani take some of the recommendations that Brian included for lower assessments, plug those back in. And that doesn't change the impact to the budget more than what we had already said, which is 4%.
Okay. Well, I move to award the contract, or however you want to word the motion.
You approve the resolution 39/2028, okay?
Second.
All right, we got first from Brian and second from Jeff. Any other further discussion? I'll entertain a roll on this one. Woodland?
Yeah.
Solo? Yes.
Reedmeyer?
Yes.
Moyer?
Yes.
Benson?
Yes.
Wallace?
Yes.
Durant?
Yes.
All right, we can talk about the second component of this, and again, this is for consideration. I think our assessment, and Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, hearing is that until March, April next year?
Yeah, the assessment hearing, we'd wait until we take bids on the Market Street reconstruction portion of the project so that we have the as-bid costs for both portions of the project to do the final assessment roll. So
We are estimating our debt right now and improving that next month, so we do need some direction on this, so we know what we're estimating we're taking on debt, because if we lower assessments, that increases our debt.
Do you want me to run through this summary?
Yes, sorry, Brian.
Okay,
Did you
so
need
as you know,
yours? You wanna share your screen? Okay.
Sure. You want me to share my screen, you said?
Yes.
Sure. Okay, let's do that here. Here we go. Seeing this?
It'll come, yeah.
So this is just a summary from the agenda packet. So as you know, the feasibility report for the project included a preliminary assessment roll for the project for both portions of the project. And that preliminary assessment roll was based on the city's local improvement policy, which sets how you determine assessments for your projects. Those assessments were based on the preliminary cost estimates as well. Based on those assessment rolls, we've heard some concerns brought to our attention on the mill and overlay and reclaim portion of the project related to the Coffee Mill Golf Courses assessment. Based on the local improvement policy, the preliminary assessment and the feasibility report, as mentioned earlier in the public comment, was around $37,000. Just as an informational piece, as the a gentleman who spoke at the public hearing mentioned, assessments are intended to reflect the increase in property value resulting from the public improvement. And really the purpose of any assessment policy is also to estimate that, but also to ensure that similar properties are treated consistently. That's why you have a policy that lays out a formula and a method of calculating that, so you treat like properties the same. There is an alternative to determine a special benefit, and that is conducting special benefit appraisals. But oftentimes that's impractical, especially in smaller cities. And so small cities and a lot of cities actually rely on standardized policies instead. The reason that special benefit appraisals are not done very often, especially in smaller cities, is that Number one, qualified appraisers are hard to find because it's a special type of appraisal, doing a special benefit appraisal. But more importantly, it's very difficult to find and identify comparable sales of properties with pre and post improvement data to support that valuation. So as a result, cities do typically use policy-based calculations to determine that special benefit. And again, those policies are generated to treat like properties the same and have generally been accepted as a way to estimate the special benefit. But it is true that the assessment is should represent the increase in property value as a result of the improvement. Those policies, though, can be problematic, especially in cases like the golf course, when based on a front footage, you've got a very large very large frontage with this property. The assessment gets very large and it becomes disproportionate to the special benefit, and that's what we have in this case. The way to deal with that, a lot of cities deal with it this way, is to set a cap on the assessment amount, with the purpose acknowledging that there is a limit to the special benefit that a roadway improvement has on a property, regardless of the frontage length. And the council does have the discretion to reduce the assessments from what the policy would calculate, so that it better represents that market value increase of the property as a result of the improvement. So it would be reasonable in the case of the Coffee Mill Golf Course assessment to set a cap on that assessment. So that's one issue. The other issue is on the Market Street project. The preliminary assessments based on the policy are resulting in assessments that are much, much higher than the recent downtown reconstruction project. And the reason for that is this is a small project that involves the construction of an intersection and a very short section of street in itself, and very few properties to assess. So those two factors result in assessments based on the policy that are high. Based on city policy, assessment for street, sewer, and water would be about $15,000 for the Market Street construction based on policy, whereas the recent downtown reconstruction policy, the same type of assessment was about $9,000. So again, as noted earlier, the special assessments should not exceed the special benefit. The market value increases as a result of the improvement. And again, you have the discretion to reduce those assessments so that they better represent the market value increase. So again, you could consider a reduction to the assessments to better match the downtown project assessments. Again, this decision doesn't need to be made until the assessment hearing, but as Caroline mentioned, staff needs some guidance related to financing the project, and property owners are interested in obviously getting some resolution to this prior to the assessment hearing next spring. So our recommendation is related to the Market Street reconstruction project, is that you reduce those assessments on a percentage basis such that they more closely match the downtown project assessments, accounting for 3% inflation from the year 2023 to 2026, which is the year of the assessment for both of those projects. And then for the Coffee Mill assessment, selecting a cap on those assessments. The suggestion is $10,000, but that's up to the council to determine what appropriate cap would be.
Thanks, Brian. Any questions, comments?
Do we have any action on this or just discussion?
I think it's discussion, but we need to figure it out.
Yeah, I'd say we definitely cap it. What that number is, we can figure out before next year, but we can't do that to the golf course or those people on Market Street, so let's just figure out a number and be capped.
Yeah, I think Market Street should be done like Brian said about compare it to downtown. So let's, that one, I think
That's
we
fair.
truly agree. And I think we should cap the golf course too.
Yeah.
Again, the number I think might be irrelevant, but I think the cap was at 10,000 was the recommendation. I think we could start there, and if something changes.
If something changes, it's probably not gonna hugely impact, but we hit the $10,000 number for the purpose of borrowing.
For budgeting, yeah, I think that's good.
And then I think they were requesting the 1,700, because that's what single family homes are getting I guess if you wanted to take that up in spring, you could, but I think for the purpose of borrowing, we'll assume it's.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Just-
sure.
Just to note on the cap, the next highest assessment, based on the policy, on the mill and overlay project, I think is $3,000, a little over $3,000. So if you were picking a range of cap, you wouldn't suggest going below $3,000. So somewhere in between that 3,000 and $10,000 number.
And sorry,
Okay.
my video dropped out here, but I also noted that it's not a similar property. It's not a like property. The golf course is not a like property to the adjacent single family residences.
Correct. So
Hey,
it would
Brian?
be appropriate to have a larger assessment, but understand the constraints and the considerations.
Right.
Hey, Brian,
Yes.
this is Jeff. Where is the terminus of Skyline Drive? Does this include the houses that all the way go down to the end of the bluff down there? Or does it end like by the fifth hole of the golf course?
It ends at the circular turnaround. It does not include the private road going to the extending out. And there
Are
was
all
a,
those people assessed too?
no,
It
I
should
did
be.
get a call from a property owner about that and concerned about, well, those folks use the road too, shouldn't they be assessed? The logic, I guess, in not assessing them is that's not dissimilar from any other project street that you assess. Streets on the block grid system, lots of other property owners use those streets, similar to these private property owners. So it isn't out of the ordinary to not assess properties that use the streets. The other discussion to consider is that, you know, those folks have a private street. They're 100% responsible for owning and maintaining and upgrading that street. And they pay, you know, city property taxes just like everybody else. They will absorb the tax levy portion of the cost of this project and any other project in town. So there is some logic and reason behind not assessing those properties for this improvement. It just happens to be a little unique because it is the only road they can use to access, but it's not out of the ordinary from other streets where there are many other property owners who use the same streets that they're not being assessed for.
Well, then why on Buena Vista Drive, where I happen to live, the three houses on the private road, they were all assessed. And this road is the only access to get to their homes. So it's the exact same situation up there. So why are people on my street being assessed and up on Skyline Drive not?
I'd have to look at that, Jeff, on what the frontage is. If there is no frontage of the private properties on Buena Vista, if there is no frontage on the improved street, then they shouldn't be assessed, and we'd have to look at that as a part of the final assessment roll. So I'd have to look at that a little closer, but
That just doesn't seem fair, since their only access to their property is on that road that's being fixed.
yeah, I
I
understand.
think when we address this with the property owner, we have to be, I think Brian's perspective is be careful to apply our policy like we would anywhere in the city, or risk then that the property owners on the private road sue us for improperly interpreting our assessment. So again, is it different than, you know, someone that needs to go, that lives on a dead end road in the middle of the city and they have to drive through another street, you know? I don't know, that was just Brian's perspective.
If I remember right, Buena Vista properties come down the hill and are along Skyline, or I mean, Buena Vista, aren't they?
What was that?
Doesn't your property come down the hill and touch Skyline, like at the back of your house?
No, I don't live in Skyline.
Or I mean,
Buena Vista. Yeah, I frontage Buena Vista. Okay, but then again, so if now they're saying that those other three houses that have to go on that road, now they don't.
Brian,
have to
you
be
could tell
taxed.
us.
So now I'm gonna be,
Now we see.
me and Jeff Raymer and Hud Raymer are gonna be triple taxed now. And that doesn't seem fair, you know, that you gotta use that road to get to your property, you should pay for the improvement.
I gotta look at the map, Jeff, to see what the situation is on Buena Vista. I don't have that up right now, so if you want to give me a second.
For the purposes of the discussion,
Yeah.
I think we could research all of this and I would just, we could look at your question, Brian, and get an opinion. A legal opinion on it as well. You know, Brian is the engineer, we could ask a legal opinion on the other properties that live on a private road, but as he pointed out, they are responsible for fixing and maintaining their private road someday too. So,
Yeah, I think for this agenda item, I think we agreed that the golf course would be for purpose of at least budgeting is 10,000. We can have a discussion again at assessment hearing. Market Street should be comparable to the downtown, making adjustments as needed. And I would just recommend Brian and Caroline look into the private drive. Yep. Otherwise, I think that, unless anybody else has any comments or questions about this, I think we can move on to the next one.
That sounds good.
Thanks, Brian. So,
You bet. Thanks.
yeah. So next item on the agenda is 10.3.2, sorry. Approve resolution for pavement order 9 for 918 grant, 930 grant, 936 grant.
okay, Mr. Kniesel or Mr. Benner, do you have photos that are in my inbox that I should be looking at or passing around? Okay,
Yeah, it is one.
So,
okay, great. Hesitation. Do you want me to go through exhibit F? Do people have the time to review that? Let's see. So Chief Stark and I were visiting with Mr. Benner yesterday. Wow, it's up. This is work done in the last 2 hours, guys. This is amazing. Wow. So that's good news. All right, so his news, so I think. And Mr. Flaherty's line too to answer questions or add. But I think we're at the point where the property changes frequently. And in the last couple hours, Mr. Bitter built the promised fence, so. I'll share my screen with the Zoom viewers here, oh, where is that? Right here now, we do have a fence, and I understand that the fence will be up, but ultimately he'd like it to become a movable fence. But it's up there, so that's screening, all these items back here. So when Joe and I visited, we basically identified items that were rusted, we had identified before, broken, bits of materials, signs, parts. And just kind of identified them and photographed them and put them as things that would ultimately need to be removed from the property. And Mr. Bitter, we have all become friends over these months. He has been cooperative. It's just that, you know, we're August 5th and there's things yet to be done. So as I have understood the process, if we approve the order today at Princeton, I understand that they would appeal immediately or within 10 days, but the way it's written is he'd have till August 30th. Then we would get an administrative warrant that would allow us to bring a junk removal property on site, provide bids. You would all then approve those bids. Then if the site continues to change, the day of, myself and Joe would be present to ensure only junk is removed off the property. And then whatever that cost is would be, you know, assessed back to his property. So I think we've been meeting so long and acknowledge he's made progress, but it's, I don't know that they're not, are you guys asking for more time or? So we're kind of at an impasse, I guess. Yes, go ahead, please. Thank you.
Sure. So. Yeah, I think it's an understatement to say that he's made some progress. I mean, I think he's made tremendous progress. This fence I thought was really the linchpin to getting us to where we needed to be. I think that screens everything between those two, which was your primary concern. What's left is a handful of small items that you've indicated yourself in Exhibit F that he's committed to moving. But the problem is, Rome's not built in a day. I mean, he's moved a lot of stuff, and when you look at Exhibit F versus Exhibit E, it's easy to say, well, you know, he didn't do this, he didn't do that, he didn't do the other thing. But you also were out there, saw the improvements that he made inside, the fenced in
Oh,
area.
yeah, that's in the,
So he was working on that during this entire month, you know, abating the weed situation in there, getting things organized, so that that looks, nice from pretty much any angle. What's left in the front is just frankly items that he kept for sale. And items continue to move in and out, as would happen with any business. You know, frankly, I think that, and I'm not asking for a round of applause or anything like that, but I think it does need to be acknowledged that he's put significant expense and effort into trying to make everyone happy, despite the fact that, as we said from the outset, it was our position that this stuff is not junk, and by your own ordinance, it's not junk. But he's continued to work and continued to try and do everything that he can do to avoid this conflict. Now, you're gonna make the decisions you want, and perhaps you can decide to declare a nuisance today, which will result in a repeat. You know, I sat here last time, listened to you all talk about the financial situation of the city. I listened to the gentleman come forward who seems to be doing a great thing, getting this arts festival and music festivals down at the riverfront. I heard him ask the relatively modest assistance of a porta potty. And the unilateral response was, we don't have $276 to get to that porta potty. So I guess as my grandpa would say, you literally don't have a pot to piss in, but can't afford it. So you're gonna go forward with this, you're gonna declare this a nuisance, it's gonna result in an appeal. You know, whether we win or lose that, I don't know. I think we have a very good argument that it's not junk. I think we have a reasonable chance of coming out of that successfully. But even if we don't, you incur a bunch of costs. And I guess I would just ask you all to think about whether incurring $10,000 in legal fees, when you can't afford to help out a good thing by coming up with $276 for a toilet, is really a good use of your constituents' tax money. Again, I know you're gonna do what you wanna do, and I know that certain people are at the end of their patience on this whole thing. But I think if anybody tries to say that Mr. Bitter didn't try and avoid this conflict, I think they're wrong. And, you know, if you want to consider it moving forward, he remains committed to removing those items on a timetable that he can accomplish. But, you know, at this point, what's left out there, the very few items that do qualify as junk, if that's worth 10 grand to you, then go ahead. But I think, you know, he's demonstrated that he wants to be a good neighbor here. And so I think you do have the option of just determining that he's a nuisance, because I think he has. You know, again, the items that are left are all items that are for sale pursuant to his business. And as a result, I would just simply not junk. So you'll do what you'll do, and we'll react accordingly.
All right, thank you. Any comments, questions?
I don't know, do we have any additional comments? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, he's come a very long way with the property, and I believe he would continue to work with us, statement that things that are out are all for sale. I disagree with that. I think that when we last walked the property, he's willing to, because the end of the day, there's a lot of odds and ends that just create that clutter look, that nuisance look.
And within a reasonable amount of time, I think a lot of those, especially now that this is here, and even prior to this, I think he was close to getting some, you know, with the organization. Inside the fence, he's getting closer and closer to being able to get some of that stuff out, there was all the items from last month that we were concerned about, that didn't change, but I think that time period was organizing inside the fence so that there's a possibility for it to get in there. I don't know, I mean, right now as it sits, despite all his work, I would say, yeah, that's a nuisance. But he's continuing to move forward and there's, I don't know, it's possible for him to be out of the, you know, from nuisance within a short period of time if he continues to move that. It's just a matter of, and once we get there, it's not recollecting, there's just a lot of stuff that even if you're talking, it's not for sale, it's, you can get twisted on the word junk, but just stuff that's even by his own permission, he's not gonna sell. So the only point is then get it out of the public eye behind the fence.
Mike, do you have any comments to add? Because Mike, I actually did have him stop by the property last Friday. That was the time he was available to go look at it. I've been out there twice. You wanna comment on anything, Mike?
No, not really. I think it's up to the city council to make a decision how they want to proceed. You know, I think the resolution lays out the process. I think Caroline's stated the process correctly. You know, I guess if there's questions, I can try and answer questions, but it's really a factual issue at this point, not a as much a legal issue.
I'm still a no, guys. To me, it comes down, I'm not convinced we have the authority to impose this on him, so I'm a no on the nuisance ordinance adoption.
The one later or this one?
This-
The collect.
This thing right now, for Lance, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Bitter has done, you know, a good job of collecting and organizing and getting, removing things. I still maintain just because you build a fence doesn't get rid of the nuisance, but I think if he can ensure that the stuff that we still needs to be removed, to work on that, then let's move forward with it and not declare it a nuisance and we'll go from there. That's my opinion. I think this will be coming back sometime in the near future, but it is what it is.
So you're saying give him another month?
No, we're done with the conversation. You can have the rest of the year to do it as far as I care. I mean, we're not gonna bring it back, are we? I mean, are we gonna bring it back every month for the next year?
I don't think so.
So I just say if he can promise to work on the stuff he needs to remove and sell or whatever, organize it, then let's just not declare it a nuisance and we'll go from there. Otherwise, this is gonna be brought back every month. No, that's my opinion.
So we established enough grounds to understand what the city identifies as a nuisance. You know what I mean?
An answer from me, us on that?
Well, you know what? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there remains
It's a yes or no.
some disagreement. Well, I don't think it is yes or no. I mean, I think it pertains to different items. I think there's some disagreement on what is junk under your current ordinance. I don't know what your new ordinances look like. I was made to sit here and listen to all that, so I haven't listened to it. Maybe that'll be more clear, but you're under your old ordinance. I think there's some disagreement as to what junk is. That being said, as you can see, the Lance has been trying to do everything that he can do to make everybody happy, despite the fact he doesn't necessarily agree with all the definitions that you all might be using. As far as his commitment to keeping it moving forward, the items that were identified last time are items that are eventually leaving the property organic. There's the radiators, things like that, that's needs to go to scrap, it's waiting to get this other stuff to auction. So he's committed to doing all of that. And I would anticipate that everything that was addressed in Exhibit E, and Exhibit F are things that are going to end up moving on, like big thing. And to talk about your promise, he's committed to continuing to move those things, and I think he understands where the city's coming from and knows what's gonna happen if he doesn't continue to move in that direction, or if things start to get out of hand again. So I don't know if that answers your question.
He understands where we're coming from.
I think he understands your position, yeah.
I will say though, that Lance, it feels like you start working really hard when you know we're about to talk about it, pay a visit, go look at it. That's when, we're seeing the fence built, seeing things moved. Yes, go ahead.
Just really briefly on the fence issue and the fact that it was kind of a last minute deal.
Yeah.
And it was discussed with me that he was trying to get a professional construction company to come in and drill holes. He's been waiting for a month for one of those two companies. He had two companies, each of which have said they'll do it. And the last time that they told him he couldn't do it was this morning. So we had to kind of go a different route to get the pivot, but he's always been committed to having that fence in. That, we've talked about it many times, and he's got it in. To his credit, he's got it in. You may modify it in the future, but it's in now, and it takes care of that entire middle issue.
I'm just concerned if we take this off the agenda, are we waiting for more complaints to come in on the property when we take it up again? Are we saying that the state of the property isn't a nuisance and therefore, Joe and I and Randy don't enforce with anybody else who looks like his property? I don't know what it sets the standard at. If this is, I guess where I'm struggling, if this is where we're saying it's not a nuisance, then I don't know what the point of the new nuisance code is. I guess I did talk to the county and it seems like they go to court all the time. I don't know if Mr. Flaherty can estimate for us our court fees involved. They are able to use the county attorney, so for them, it's no big deal. They do these all the time. They get one written complaint. They go take it through court. The person comes up to show, I don't wanna end up in court, but I also feel like if we're gonna say this isn't a nuisance, then I don't know the point of, I guess, what does that mean for all the other properties that are in line, or me and Joe? We're the ones needing to administer this, so I guess I'll have to take the current state of this property and say, okay, if someone else's look like that, we're saying council's gonna say that that's acceptable. I do believe that potentially he understands what our standards are. That was clear. I understand that Lance understands that. So I don't know, but this, in my opinion, this doesn't meet code. We found broken pieces of machinery and documented and photographed them in here all over the place. And our current ordinance that we passed said you can't have broken pieces of machinery and equipment stored outside, is what we're gonna approve next, so.
They're not broken.
I guess I'm not. Joe and I kind of came up with a standard for the display of his lawnmowers. Can it run? Can I turn on the ignition and it runs? Is it lined up? Does it look good? For us, that meant that looks like it's for sale, it can stay outside, was the standard we adopted. If it's it doesn't have a seat, it's ripped up, there's a missing battery, it doesn't look like it's for sale to us. So, we just said that needs to be stored behind a fence. But I think it's kind of hard to spend additional time on this as well, so.
Well,
I don't-
I mean, Caroline, I mean, I think your comment is I understand it, but I also think if they just don't table it, they just decide to move on and not act on this tonight and not bring it back, you're not necessarily saying the current condition is not a nuisance. You're just saying you're not going to enforce it because he's giving you his good faith.
Okay,
Good faith that he's going to change it even further. And if he doesn't, I mean, the new nuisance code is much more, I mean, we put a lot of work into the procedure of that code. And one of the things that is in there is the assessment and the cost recovery sections a lot more detailed to specifically include attorney's fees as an assessable cost. And so if there is more problems in the future, you could renotice it under the new code and then we
so
could
that's
see.
fine.
Yeah.
I struggle to say that this is a nuisance property because we've got other properties that we need to take on and if this is acceptable, then I don't feel like we need to take them.
I don't think this is considered acceptable.
Well, I don't,
think the
yeah, I don't think
work
you're
is
saying that
done.
though. Yeah.
Okay, good.
That's not what I would that's not what I would say. I would say it's still a nuisance, but to the point of taking it to court, I just don't think it's that level. Especially if he does the stuff he says he's gonna do within a reasonable time. We can argue the reasonable time. I mean, we can go back in 2 months and reassess the property. If it looks worse, then we follow the new process. I mean,
Okay.
otherwise, we could table it for 6 months and it's still gonna be the discussion we're gonna have. That's me, but.
Yep. I'm with you, Tim. I appreciate the good faith. I think this is a very challenging scenario because of the sort of perception on the part of the property owner that it's outdoor storage. So we have that new outdoor storage language that we also have to utilize. And I think it's no longer a useful activity for staff to monitor this. We have to see that Lance can do it or he can't. And if it gets worse, then we're in a scenario where we review it at that time.
Do we need a motion or something to not declare it a nuisance or anything?
What would be the proper motion, Mike?
Well, I wouldn't, and so
No action.
your choices are to table it, but when you motion to table is technically, that means you're going to take it up at a specific time in the future. So you wouldn't do that. You could do a motion to postpone. Or you could just do a motion to postpone, until there's further analysis by city staff, which could be never, And then if it would be up, you would just basically, delegate this to city staff to determine if it needs to be brought back to an agenda. I think based on the discussion from Tim specifically, I think that would be either one of two things occurs. Either it gets worse, and I think over time it has kind of gotten better and gotten worse. It's kind of ebbed and flowed as things have moved in and out. And now it's better than it was when it first started. There's no doubt about that. But you would just make a motion to postpone for a city staff recommendation to move forward with something and then defer it to city staff in the future. And if it either gets worse or if there's the items that are identified are not moved and sit there for 5 months unmoved, whatever the city, staff could make the decision to bring it back or maybe less than 5 months. But I think just deferring it to staff level, if you're not going to act on adopting it, I think is the right thing to do. I mean, it's such a fluid situation. I don't think the city council can really direct it. It's why you have staff is to review things like this on an ongoing basis and not,
What we've done by de facto is we've allowed this to persist and be an agenda item every month, which has kept staff working on it every month, which I don't want to see continue.
Right. Well, that's part of it. This is not the only property in town. I think Caroline's comments well taken on that, and so that's really what prompted the new ordinance. It's not just this property, but a series of properties. And so in the future, there's a much more, and Christie, I won't step on Christie's toes here because she really did it, but there's going to be a more clear procedure. And that was my big complaint with the ordinance, more than even maybe not being specific enough. It just didn't have a very good procedure that tells city staff exactly what to do. And I think that was a lot of the challenge here is you just had an old ordinance that didn't give staff direction as to exactly when to send notices, how many days to wait, what the procedure is for appeal, you know, what's the timing of that, you know, what's a major versus a minor abatement, that kind of thing. And I think the new ordinance
My
is going to be,
understanding is regardless of the changes in ordinance, we will still end up in court. That was my understanding.
well, sure,
There's
sure. I
that
mean, just,
he can hire an attorney under the old ordinance or new.
sure.
And if we want to take it further to get a junk removal company out there to remove the junk, we need an administrative warrant in the new process or the old one.
Sure.
And they would obviously fight that and we would end up in court. So,
Right.
you know, that's where this ends. A junk removal company gets rid of all the stuff that we've identified and we assess it back to his property. And in the meantime, as I understood from the county, they all end up in court. So,
These
but
cases
I
are
guess-
frequently litigated. I mean, it's not,
Yeah.
it's not abnormal because people just don't, a lot of times it's because they don't want to change it and there's no ability. You know, a lot of owners of properties like this just don't have the financial abilities to change it and don't want to. And that's normal, you know. But I think this is unique in that there has been significant progress made at the property. So I think that's pretty unique. You know, I think a lot of times that doesn't happen.
Agreed. I saw the before pictures and had lost sight of how dramatic the change has been.
Any other comments, questions? Otherwise, I would move to postpone the order of nuisance and defer to city staff as needed.
Second.
Any other discussion? I'd entertain a roll.
Solid.
Yeah.
I have a discussion.
Oh, go ahead, Dean. Wire. Hey,
I just want to thank city staff for all they've done.
Well, yeah, I would totally agree.
I was going to say, as you make your vote, make sure you support your city staff. This has been a lot of work for them. I think the clarity that comes from the new ordinance language is important procedurally and otherwise, but we should all invest in understanding this and monitoring ourselves when we see, you know, properties that might need attention, and not expect that we can just totally rely on city staff.
All right, Heather.
I'll start over.
Yep.
Solid.
Yes.
Woodley. Yes. Moyer.
Yes.
Waller.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Friedmeier.
Yes.
Duran.
Yes.
All right, thank you, everybody, for the discussion. Thank you, the city staff, for your hard work on this. So, next order of business is 10.3, approve new ordinance regulating public nuisance within the city of Wabasha, which is our second read. Any approve? Second. We got a first from John, second from Brian. Any discussion? I'd entertain a roll.
Moyer.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Friedmeier.
Yes.
Woodley. Yes. Solid.
Yes.
Waller.
Yes.
Duran.
Yes.
All right. 10.4, request to approve an MOU to pay $6,000 per year for 5 years to provide matching funds for Three Rivers Bus.
They were not able to attend. I guess I was kind of curious on ridership because our sense is that ridership has declined. So back when this was first given to us in 2019, they provided 12,000 to 13,000 rides per year. And then it was interesting to see in COVID, height of COVID, they were now at 4,200 rides per year. And then it slowly increased. Then it declined again in 2024, 6,200 rides. I think I understood they may have had some new policies that then when people couldn't ride with them. But obviously we can see that the disabled and the elderly and children are using this, and we've had it in Wabasha a long, long time. I had asked, could we get a lower rate based on like a smaller vehicle, and that's not possible. This isn't in our CIP budget, we would have to add it. I think we could. Another option versus a decision today, I think they've already applied for their federal grant and assume that the match is coming from us. My impression was it's already been submitted, so I think we could, make this part of the budget discussions and see how it impacts the CIP and let you guys look at the levy and make the decision at that time. But if we decided this is a service we don't wanna lose, then when we vote on it today, and it will be added to the CIP, that's where it came out, it looks like historically. And we could find data that we had paid for it back in 2019, but back then it was a lot. The total cost was a lot less, so.
So why couldn't they be here tonight?
I don't know.
I'm
did need
frustrated
to-
by that too. I think that was the intent. I don't know if something came up or just was a scheduling conflict, but I really wanted them to present this kind of case because, as you know, this predates Caroline and I. I'm on the advisory board for Hiawatha Transit, and I didn't realize that this was a cost allocated to cities. I've sat on that board. That's never been discussed. I'm certainly aware of the ridership changes through COVID, and that's in every community. We do get statistics. We can certainly get statistics if we want to see more about ridership. Those are presented quarterly to us. I know if they're not coming up on a quarterly report soon, they can show you past ridership numbers. One aspect of underutilization by children in our community, as I understand it from Three Rivers staff, is that the vehicle that serves Wabasha was serving our Head Start community, that those children are now in a classroom in Lake City. So that changes the way that the bus that's dedicated to Wabasha would have sort of ability to serve others. So I think that's an issue where school-based programs, both St. Felix and Wabasha Kellogg, were not utilizing it for their preschool children as much because the bus was en route. So it sounds like there could be increased ridership amongst our early childhood audience, but I think that would need to be sort of an effort that Three Rivers makes with the schools and not an assumption that it'll happen, because I don't know how preschoolers are currently being served for transit. Just to clarify, this is not just for children, disabled, and elderly. This is for anyone. These are fee-based rides, and there's a cost associated with this. So this is we're the subsidy. The other subsidy that I wanted them to present, because I don't have the knowledge of it, is exactly what Caroline presented. The funding for these programs for transit, public transit, comes through MnDOT. So we're essentially the match that makes it possible to buy the vehicles and run the programs. And the vehicles have exponentially increased in cost. I think when they came to speak with Caroline and I, they said, about $75,000 buses are now $250,000. And that was the vast majority of the conversation during COVID and throughout, I would say, and since COVID, has been, when are we going to get those buses? They've been in sort of back ordered for years, and their costs have just continued to increase. So drivers, ridership decline because of COVID, and the cost of these buses. So I really wanted them to present this. I don't know what happens if we don't sign this memorandum of understanding, and I also don't know what the issue is with regards to timing. Can we just take a look at it in our budget meetings? Is there a time frame that Hiawatha Valley needs it back?
My understanding was that they needed it in time for that grant, and that they just, the deadline was coming and going, and they didn't get in front of us soon enough. So my impression is the grant has been submitted already. And so once they find out they were awarded the grant, I guess the rubber hits the road on if we're in or not.
Right, that's familiar to that's my recall now that you say that too. The other piece is that they are willing to look at a pilot adoption of a van, not a standard family passenger vehicle, but a sort of a commercial van that could take on multiple, I assume multiple wheelchairs. They're also going through a lot of leadership change, which I think is good, given kind of the discussion that they had, early discussion they had with Caroline and I about other community-based stops. So right now, there's no regular schedule where the bus goes from, for instance, Kellogg to Wabasha to Lake City to Red Wing, but that's in the works. So they're also looking at service improvements in terms of not just circulating people within our community, but making an opportunity for people to move from one community to the other and back in a more reasonable way than sort of waiting a number of hours for a scheduled pickup. So I wanted them to come and kind of toot their own horn about how they're adapting to these new rider numbers and trying to, increase access and kind of make the case. I certainly support this. I want to make sure it continues. I was surprised to learn that it was our responsibility, but I think we need to figure out a way to understand it and then decide about our participation.
Could they make their case to us at our budget workshop?
Maybe. Even by Zoom. It's just a workshop.
I'm fine tabling this till they can appear and present to us.
Yep, I would agree.
We'll make a motion to table.
Second. All right, we got a first from Gene, second from Brian. Any other discussion? All right, I'll ask for a roll. Or yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Moyer,
Yes.
Woodley,
Yes.
yes, Friedmeier, yes, Duran.
Yes.
All right, 10-5 Milligan Street lot inquiries.
So, we've gotten a couple inquiries, but none of them kind of met what we had laid out or had approved. So I do think we should get court input on it, but you ultimately own the land, so any offer that comes in, you need to approve. So buyer one is interested in building a duplex or a single family, depending on setbacks to rent out, but would request to pay for the lot price after the home is built. I know we owe utilities some money here, so if we did that, it would have to be, and we need to be in second position to the bank loan that they get to build it. And I would just say, you pay us back in 18 months to put a timeline on that. It is a bit risky, I guess. But I've certainly seen it done. I did have another buyer drop out because they also wanted to build a single family home to rent out. And I probably have to say, not verbose, please. And they did the numbers and realized the cost of new construction doesn't make what's affordable rent in Wabasha, which is why we're waiting. And at the end of the month, we'll hear about a grant program that we applied for. So a third buyer dropped out. And then I attached this to the agenda twice, it looks like, but somebody just asked about putting a manufactured home. And Kathy asked me today, are they gonna build a garage? They did not mention a garage. And we had said like single family new construction, so I don't think we were envisioning a manufactured home. Oh wait, is this the garage? No, that's just the back, okay. Wendy confirmed that would fit. So, or we can say no to both of them, find out if we get this grant at the end of the month, and then see if we can get a regular offer come in.
We continue to market them, I think.
I would send it to the port and have them market it and deal with it.
Okay, great, we will put this on the next board agenda.
Those Winona homes aren't like mobile homes, though.
No.
They're actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not like it's not a double wide or anything.
I'm calling it manufactured, so as I understand it, that's not like built by someone that's brought on a truck.
Yeah, they build it somewhere else and
Build
then
somewhere
they
else.
stick it together.
Okay. All right, send it to port. Sounds good. I think Watch will hopefully discuss it tomorrow.
Perfect. 10-6.
Just repeat, okay.
Set meeting date for council workshop.
We got that, yeah.
We have that.
Yeah. Just for the,
26.
we need a council workshop to discuss the survey results and the future of the building project. And do you want me to, Tyler and Wendy suggested just another survey poll on that? And then is there a preference that it's the same day as a council meeting or kind of its own day and time?
Okay, guys.
Yeah.
All right, we'll do a survey monthly for that.
I think that survey was actually pretty nice.
Okay. Yeah. Wendy's idea.
Perfect.
Okay.
11-1 donations, Mr. Woodley.
All right, we got donations. Once again, Wabasha Pella Area Community Fund Foundation. Bought pool passes for $16,000, which is fantastic. We've been doing that for a number of years now, where they have ambulance $200 in memory of Patricia Dow, $20 by Cheryl Costello, and $1,000 from an anonymous donor. That's all ambulance. $1,000 anonymous to fire department, $360 to the Rotary Club of Wabasha for the bike share. Library donations, $3,000 from Carlene and Harold Brosdahl, 1,000 anonymous, 500 Lori Hassinger. And in memory of Alice Jarstead, there is a slew of donations, which I'm gonna let people read in the agenda, rather than we'd be here all night. Finishing up fireworks donations, Edward Jones, $220, Greenfield Township, $250, Wabasha Area Lions Club, $250, and Fred and Diane Scholberg, $250. Thank you went out to all the donation givers in the Herald and on Facebook pages and all that too, so. And I'm halfway through handwriting thank yous as well, but it's really arduous and.
Brian, Heritage Laundromat's on the second.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed one. Heritage Laundromat, $250. They're always good for a donation too, so.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Move to approve. Second. We got first from John, second from Jeff. I'll entertain a roll.
Woodley.
Aye.
Friedmeier.
Yes.
Sala.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Moyer.
Yes.
Laura.
Yes.
Durant.
Yes.
All right, perfect. Announcements. Wabasha Athletic Complex donation ceremony, August 14th at 9 a.m. 2026 budget workshop, Tuesday the 26th at 3 p.m. at the library. Skateboard park, grand opening Tuesday, August 26th at 11 a.m. Any? Survey good one, yeah. Okay. Otherwise.
Does anyone know any skateboarders? You can find a skateboard.
Yeah, I do. I do.
All right, we are trying to bribe them to come to our grand opening and help skateboard for whatever media appears, so.
I can try.
And we're discussing offering free ice cream to any youth that come to our skate park grand opening.
Youth.
Or
Still do.
or anybody, yes, or young or old.
It hurts. It hurts now, but. I still have skateboards in my house.
I will, entertain a motion to adjourn. I'll move. I got a first from Gene. I'll move. Second for me. Roll.
Moyer.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Laura.
Yes.
Woodley.
Yes.
Sala.
No. Yes.
Friedmeier.
Yes.
Durant.
Yes.